Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the office of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men and women, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in these islands. Let thy blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands, and those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. And this we beg for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Morning, members. The House is now in session. Members, the confirmation of minutes for the 14th of June. The minutes have been circulated. Are there any amendments required? No amendments. The minutes will be confirmed as printed. Messengers from the governor? There are none. Announcements by the speaker. The first announcement this morning is that the Honorable AG has informed us that she will be absent today. The second announcement this morning is that I have received the special report of the Ombudsman for Bermuda's own motion systematic investigation entitled For the Record, an investigation into the disclosure of spent convictions in the U.S. visa applications. The report has been submitted in accordance with Section 24(2)(a) and 3 of the Ombudsman Act 2004. The next announcement. I have received the annual report of the Ombudsman for Bermuda, which covers the period 1st of January to the 31st of December 2023. This report is submitted in accordance with Section 24(1) and 3 of the Ombudsman Act 2004. Okay. That's the announcements by the Speaker. The next item this morning, messengers from the Senate. We have a message from the Senate. It's returned the public bill entitled the Bermuda Health Council Amendment Act 2024, requesting the concurrence of the House in an amendment to the bill proposed to be made by the Senate. And Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now resolve into Committee of the Whole for consideration of the amendment to Clause 2 of the bill entitled Bermuda Health Council Amendment Act 2024 as proposed to be made by the Senate.
Thank you. MP Fugger, would you take the chair in committee? Thank you. Mr. Liam, would you mind putting the bar down, please?
Thank you. Okay. You have the legislation in front of you?
Yeah, this is the amendment.
Okay. Honorable members, we are now in committee of the whole for further consideration of the bill entitled the Bermuda Health Council Amendment Act 2024. I call on the minister. Thank you, Minister. Are there any other members who wish to speak to this clause? I recognize the member Jackson from constituency 20. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My only question would be to ask the minister why she had chosen to make this amendment.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the amendment? There being none, Minister?
Madam Chair, in answer to the honorable member's question, we felt that with respect to this, notwithstanding the importance of the data collection for Bermuda as it relates to our long anticipated pursuit of universal health coverage, we did understand from members of the public as well as our stakeholder physician community. We've actively listened to their concerns and suggestions raised, and as such, we have proposed an amendment in the Senate, and we are hoping that it will be ratified as such here in this honorable chamber.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the amendment?
Yes.
I recognize the member from constituency 12.
Yes, considering
Yes, they do.
considering the reply, would this suggest that not enough consultation had taken place?
Are there any other members who wish to speak on the amendment? Yes. Minister?
With respect to this amendment, Madam Chair, as I've indicated previously, the rationale behind it and the said amendment was offered in the Senate. It was approved, and I'm asking for the concurrence of this honorable House.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the amendment? There being none, Minister? Minister, just approve the, move that this amendment be approved. That's all. You have to move it.
Said amendment be approved and that the bill be returned to the Senate together with a suitable message informing the Senate that the House has concurred in the amendment proposed to be made by the Senate to this bill.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any objections? There being none, so approved. I call on the Speaker to resume his seat.
Sir? Members, are there any objections to the amendment to the Bermuda Health Council Amendment Act 2024 being reported back to the House? There are none. The matter has been reported. We now move on. The next item on the order paper today are papers and other communications to the House. There are 4 such papers, all in the name of the Minister of Finance. Premier.
Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the following items: the audited financial statements for the Bermuda Casino Gaming Commission for the fiscal year ended 31st of March 2020. The Bermuda Casino Gaming Commission annual report for the 1st of April 2020 to the 31st of March 2021, Bermuda Casino Gaming Commission annual report for the 1st of April 2021 to the 31st of March 2022, and the Bermuda Gaming Commission annual report for the 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. The next item on the order paper, petitions. There are none. It moves on to the next item, which is statements by ministers and junior ministers. And members, we have 10 such statements this morning. The first is in the name of Mr. Premier. Premier?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to introduce a new initiative to inspire young people to pursue careers in the public service. The aim is to reach qualified, capable young Bermudians to prepare them to join Bermuda's diverse public service. Mr. Speaker, the Public Service Career Guide is an online resource that outlines the varied and rewarding opportunities in the public sector and explains the qualifications, skills, and competencies needed for different roles within the government. Mr. Speaker, a recent review identified more than 150 posts in the public service that need to be filled. These posts have consistently low or no responses from recruitment efforts or internal training programs. This is often because of the high demand for talent, creating global and local gaps, or posts needing rare skills that are not found in Bermuda. Some of these posts are pilots, marine operations controllers, public health specialists, compliance officers, engineers, accountants, and even auto mechanics. Mr. Speaker, the Career Guide will help inform motivated individuals who share the government's vision and mission about education and training requirements for posts within the service. The guide shows how public service roles are diverse and impactful and how they help the country's social and economic development. It will help students and career changers understand what it means to work in the public sector and be a tool for generating interest among potential talent. Mr. Speaker, the public service is vital for our society and our economy. It provides crucial services and programs that improve the lives of the people of Bermuda and supports the government's vision and policies for better and fair Bermuda. The public service needs a strong and diverse talent pool that represents our community and aspirations. It also requires a culture of excellence, innovation, and learning that helps public officers grow and succeed in their careers. Mr. Speaker, the Public Service Career Guide is part of a more extensive strategy to revamp and modernize the public service to make it sustainable and relevant for the future. Reimagining Careers of the Public Service campaign aims to raise awareness and interest among young Bermudians, especially in high school and college, about the value and impact of working in the public service. It provides information to help clear some of the myths and stereotypes that may stop some people from choosing a public sector career. Mr. Speaker, the guide will be sent to schools through principals and guidance counselors, promoted on social media, and supported by a campaign to promote job-specific training programs to find new talent willing to be trained in some areas. The service will soon launch a drive to recruit trainees as roles for pilots and maritime controllers, and recruitment for other training programs will follow as we invest for a future in our public service. And Mr. Speaker, I hope that you would permit me to say that just returning from Cedar Bridge Academy with the Minister of Education, as those young persons are graduating, and there is a graduate who is going to the Marine and Ports, as we are continuing to look to bring more young people into the public service in these hard-to-fill posts. Mr. Speaker, public service ambassadors who are current public officers will share their personal experiences to build awareness about public service careers among people and the public. Using employees to tell their stories of working for the public service is a powerful way to show the diverse and meaningful careers that the public sector offers. It lets potential candidates hear from people with similar backgrounds and interests and passions who have found fulfillment and purpose in their public service roles. It also helps to show public officers' impact and value on the lives of Bermudians and the development of our island. By sharing their journeys, challenges, and achievements, public service ambassadors can inspire and motivate young Bermudians to join the public service and contribute to the common good. Mr. Speaker, the Public Service Career Guide has been posted on the government portal at www.gov.bm, and for the information's Honorable House, I will also table a copy, Mr. Speaker, and give one to you. I urge all Bermudians, especially our young people, to explore the guide and discover the many opportunities and paths that a career in the public service can offer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Members, the second statement this morning is also in the name of Mr. Premier. Would you like to continue with that one?
Absolutely, Mr.
Right
Speaker.
ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in this Honorable House to announce further progress in our journey towards enhancing the efficiency and convenience of government services. Before I share the details, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it clear that the government recognizes that more is required to deliver efficient service in key areas. Many residents also made this clear in their submissions to the red tape reduction consultation, and the government is listening, and investing in improving service delivery. Today, I'm pleased to share that on Monday, the 1st of July, the new online payment portal that will become the home of online payments for government services will launch at pay.gov.bm. The long-term vision for pay.gov.bm will be for residents to pay for any government service from any computer or mobile device that they currently need to visit the cashier's desk at the government administration building. Mr. Speaker, the first service to launch on pay.gov.bm will be the ability to pay parking tickets online. This service was commonly mentioned in the red tape reduction consultation, and due to the stellar work of public officers, the government will debut this new online convenience. Mr. Speaker, in the 2023 speech from the throne, the government shared our agenda to improve the delivery of government services. As a government, we recognize that our responsibilities go beyond legislation and policy. We also have an obligation to ensure that government services are delivered at a high standard. These services must be effective, efficient, and reliable, as the people of Bermuda deserve a level of service that matches our status as a premier international financial center. Mr. Speaker, currently, to make a parking ticket payment, a person would have to visit the Dame Lois Brown Evans building, go through security, wait in line, and then provide the cashier with their ticket information and credit or debit card to pay. Now, any resident can simply visit pay.gov.bm, enter their ticket details, which will be the ticket number and the date, provide credit or debit card information, click submit, and the parking ticket is paid. Residents can enter their email address to get a receipt, but if they do not wish to share their email, they can save a screenshot for payment confirmation. Mr. Speaker, in line with cybersecurity guidance and protecting privacy, honorable members of the public should know that no personal information, including credit card details, will be retained on government systems or servers. Therefore, individuals will be asked to re-enter their payment information with every transaction. Residents may have their payment information saved on their internet browser or phone, but it will not be retained in the government system. To repeat, Mr. Speaker, the new payment portal will not store the card details, names, or other personal details entered when processing a payment. Mr. Speaker, our vision extends far beyond paying for parking tickets online. Far too often, we hear the frustration of residents traveling to different government locations to ultimately pay the same government. In the future, we will expand these online capabilities to all government services, including customs payments at the airport. Our goal is to ensure that every payment to the government can be processed online, making it as safe, seamless, and efficient as possible. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to announce an additional online service that is launched within the Ministry of Finance. During my time as minister, quite a few Bermudians have questioned why they need to call the Department of Social Insurance to get their social insurance number when this service should be available online. Mr. Speaker, the government agrees, and the department under the new Director of Social Insurance was tasked with working with the digital transformation team to launch this online service. I'm pleased to share with honorable members that this service is now live and all residents can search for a social insurance number online. Residents can visit www.gov.bm, click on the link, and I quote, social insurance lookup service, end quote, and use this new online service. This new service will make it easier for employers and employees, save time, and reduce frustration. The Department of Social Insurance is working to implement additional online services, and I look forward to updating this honorable House on these new online services in the future. Mr. Speaker, as I close, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the public officers within the Ministry of Finance, IDT, the Digital Transformation Team, the Accountant General's Office, the Department of Social Insurance, and the Judiciary under the leadership of the Honorable Chief Justice for their hard work and efforts to launch these new online services. Mr. Speaker, the government is committed to progressing our digital transformation journey, leveraging technology to make government services more accessible and user-friendly. These initiatives underscore our dedication to serving the people of Bermuda better and our commitment to building a more efficient, responsive, and modern government for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Works. Minister,
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
good morning.
Mr. Speaker, in keeping with prior commitments made by myself to keep the public informed, I rise in this honorable House for a seventh time since February 2020 to not only address the state of our national highways and plans to address their condition, but also to provide details of the agreement made between the government of Bermuda and Aztec Industries for the purchasing of new asphalt plant and supporting equipment. Mr. Speaker, in my most recent statement regarding this topic in February of this year, I announced that the Cabinet would shortly consider the details of purchasing a new asphalt plant and replacement asphalt equipment from Aztec Industries, a leading provider of asphalt plants and paving equipment in the United States. Mr. Speaker, In March of this year, the Cabinet approved an agreement between the Ministry of Public Works and Aztec that sees the supply and maintenance of the following: one asphalt plant, including a new screening plant. The asphalt plant creates asphalt for the laying process, while the screening plant sorts the construction aggregates that will be used in the asphalt plant. One asphalt milling machine used to remove the old asphalt in preparation for the paving process. One material transfer vehicle, commonly referred to as a shuttle buggy, a machine used in the field to store asphalt that is transported by trucks to the site. Then it agitates and maintains the asphalt at an optimum temperature before it is laid onto the road surface. And one asphalt paver used to lay the hot asphalt in a symmetrical, uniform manner. Mr. Speaker, negotiations with the company proved extremely fruitful, with the company able to meet all the specifications required for road paving works on the island. In addition, Aztec offered free training to public officers assigned to the asphalting team. With employees that have over 40 years of experience in the industry, the training is a unique opportunity for them to receive expert guidance on modern techniques and applications to enhance the asphalt laying process. Mr. Speaker, the cost of this agreement is $6,197,470 for new equipment, with the first items being delivered in September, these being the screening plant, shuttle buggy, and asphalt paver. The remaining equipment is expected to be delivered by the end of this calendar year, and the new plant ready to begin production in April 2025. Mr. Speaker, this is an investment in the future, and we are expecting that this new equipment will last at least 20 years. In preparation for these new assets, the ministry began the procurement process last month to seek the services of a contractor who will provide skilled labor, construction equipment, and cranes to assemble the plants and provide technical support. This RFP is set to close today, June 28th, and can be found on the government procurement site at www.government/procurement notices. The cost of these works will be in addition to the equipment purchase costs. While this is again a move for the future, let me now speak on the present. Mr. Speaker, as I've stated before, there are multiple circumstances simultaneously that are contributing to the current state of our roads. Mainly, one, the $250 million Belco capital plan to improve its underground high-voltage electrical cable system. Two, recovering from the excessive amounts of rain over the 2023 calendar year, which produced an inordinate number of potholes. And three, the unreliability of owned asphalting assets. Mr. Speaker, since my last statement in this House on February 23, 2024, the Ministry Highways team have been out in full force paving those roughest areas. Fortunately, with the recent pleasant weather our island has seen, it has given the team the consistent ability for the following. One, paving both lanes on South Shore Road from the Reefs Hotel through to Fairmont, Southampton, including the area by Henry VIII. And two, paving South Road at Collectors Hill Junction in Smiths, with the remaining paving works in Busley by sidewalk improvements in the area scheduled to be completed next week. Mr. Speaker, upon the conclusion of the works at Collectors Hill, the asphalting teams will address rough areas on Middle Road in Warwick and Crowell Hill in Hamilton Parish. They will eventually return to Harrington Sound Road to pave from the Harrington Sound School until Flats, then on to North Shore Road through Flats Village, and Middle Road Flats from North Shore Road to Store Hill. Mr. Speaker, we are anticipating that Belco will recommence their capital plan works this summer, with pull hole works every 800 feet along Middle Road from Camp Hill to Belmont. They will continue with trench work to place new conduits in Middle Road from Barnes's Corner to Evans Bay. The start date is still to be confirmed by the company. A reminder to the listening public that a pull hole is a hole dug in the road to allow for the cables to be pulled through the laid conduits and to be joined. As always, Mr. Speaker, I will keep this House and the public updated as more information becomes available. Mr. Speaker, honorable members may recall that in my statement in this House last year on Friday, July 21st, 2023, I announced that the Cabinet was set to approve the purchasing of 16 brand-new solar-powered flashing beacon signal sets, which were intended to be installed at crosswalks in various locations across the island to ensure the safety of pedestrians. The Cabinet did, in fact, approve the purchase of the beacons for the sum of $137,378 from the international company Traffic and Parking Control Company, Inc., more commonly known as TAPCO. Mr. Speaker, the new solar-powered flashing beacon signals were delivered approximately 2 months ago, and as such, Highway Section have been installing the assets. Currently, there are new or replacement sets at the following locations: Heron Bay Marketplace in Southampton, near the former T.N. Tatum Middle Road in Warwick, outside of the Maxi Mart in Whitehill, on Frog Lane, Devonshire, at Bars Bay Park on Pitts Bay Road, outside of the Bacardi Building on Pitts Bay Road, at Bermuda College on South Road, at Ice Queen near White Sands and Paget, on Parsons Road, Pembroke near the playground, on Middle Road, Devonshire by ZBM, outside of the entrance to Radnor Road in Hamilton Parish, near Shelley Bay Marketplace in Hamilton Parish, and on North Shore Road near Shekinah Worship Center in Hamilton Parish. While these are only 13 of the 16 purchased, it is intended that the remaining will be kept for emergency circumstances until such time additional units arrive, to which the administrative process to procure them has already commenced. Some of these sites where there were single beacons have been switched out with other sites that had single beacons. Mr. Speaker, to recap on what is currently being done to address the state of our national highways: 1, the ministry has purchased a brand new asphalt plant and supporting equipment to ensure works can be completed at the highest quality. 2, paving works have been completed at a number of locations, with the next scheduled area being Middle Road in Warwick. And 3, new solar-powered flashing beacon signals are being installed across the island, and it is intended that more will be ordered in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, I hope this update provides an understanding of the situation and plan going forward. We are fully committed to addressing the state of our roads as quickly as possible. I would like to take this opportunity to again thank the motoring public for their patience and understanding. And like always, Mr. Speaker, I will keep this House and the public informed as we progress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement is also in the name of the Minister of Works. Minister, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right here.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to advise of the final chapter of the amalgamation of 2 government quangos, the West End Development Corporation and the Bermuda Land Development Company. Mr. Speaker, later this session, I will table the West End Development Corporation Amendment Act 2024 in this honorable House. This is the culmination of 6 years of hard work by this PLP administration. Mr. Speaker, some honorable members may recall in July 2022, I stood in this place and announced some decisions relating to the operational changes at the quangos under the remit of the Ministry of Public Works. These decisions were: in September 2018, a freeze on all new hires was issued to all 3 quangos, these being the West End Development Corporation, WEDCO, the Bermuda Land Development Company, BLDC, and the Bermuda Housing Corporation, BHC. Effective November 1st, 2018, the then BHC General Manager, Major Barrett Dill, assumed management responsibility for the BLDC as interim CEO in addition to his responsibilities at the BHC. Effective November 1st, 2018 as well, the BHC CFO, Mr. Mark Mello, assumed financial responsibility for the BLDC in addition to his responsibilities as BHC. The BLDC board remained intact and continued their work under the new management team. And effective January 29th, 2021, the WEDCO General Manager, Mr. Andrew Diaz, assumed responsibility for BLDC as the interim CEO in addition to his responsibilities as WEDCO. Mr. Speaker, it's worth repeating some of the history of this entire project. In July 2002, the then cabinet decided that the Central Policy Unit should complete a review of 17 quangos which focus on the following objectives. Determine whether Bermuda's quangos as currently constructed are meeting government's aims, and if not, recommend methods of achieving alignment. 2, determine whether there is accountability to the government, and if not, recommend an adequate structure to accomplish this. And 3, develop mechanisms for ongoing review. Mr. Speaker, the scope of the review covered a wide range of topics, including the establishment and governance of each body, its existing relevance, feasibility, effectiveness, levels of accountability to government, expenditure, income, whether the work could be more effectively or more efficiently carried out within government proper or by some other means. Determine governance and best practice in other jurisdictions, and to develop a mechanism for ongoing review. All laudable goals, which resulted in a report entitled Untangling Bermuda's Quangos, a review of quangos in the Bermuda government, presented in October 2003, and the subsequent SAGE Commission report presented a decade later in 2013. Mr. Speaker, this PRP government took the decision early in our administration, shortly after returning to government in July 2017, to have another look at the reports and their recommendations with a view to actioning some of those items. Upon assuming this role, I asked the 3 managers to meet on a regular basis to discuss ways we could merge operations utilizing the recommendations of the Quango report as the basis for those discussions. These meetings resulted in the aforementioned operational changes. However, this was not the end, but only the beginning. Mr. Speaker, as mentioned before, in January 2021, the WEDCO General Manager assumed responsibility for BLDC as the interim CEO, and throughout that year, Mr. Andrew Diaz, in his dual role, curated a draft strategic plan to merge the West End Development Corporation and the Bermuda Land Development Company into one new entity. This strategic plan was submitted to the ministry in June 2022. Credit must be given to Mr. Diaz and his team because throughout that year, he, along with everyone else in the world, was also managing the remnants of the COVID-19 pandemic. This strategic plan outlined the vision for this singular entity as the 2 quangos shared similar objectives, mandates, skills, accounting procedures, and staffing levels. In that plan, it recommended that the BHC would remain a separate entity as it has different mandates, goals, and objectives. Mr. Speaker, this plan was submitted for consideration and was subsequently approved by the Cabinet in July 2022. This amalgamation is an opportunity to immediately effect some cost savings by reducing duplication of roles, combining responsibilities, and bringing a sharper focus to deliver on the government's mandate to control costs and operate more efficiently. The then Permanent Secretary, Mr. Andrew Rochester, and I then visited the respective staffs and boards of the affected bodies to inform them of this decision. Many welcomed the move and are looking forward to the future. Mr. Speaker, this now brings me back to the July 2022 statement in which I explained that this process originally started 20 years ago and that I shall not rest until this is accomplished, a commitment I am keeping today. Mr. Speaker, upon that Cabinet approval, a team was immediately formed comprising of technical officers of WEDCO, BLDC, and the ministry to manage the transition. Over the past 2 years, the following operational activities have taken place to prepare for this amalgamation. 1. Creation and implementation of new identical union collective bargaining agreements for both WEDCO and BLDC. Thanks are to be given to our union partners, the Bermuda Public Services Union and the Bermuda Industrial Union, for being instrumental to ensure that their members and our employees move forward with us. Job description reviews and internal policy assessments have been completed. Merged WEDCO and BLD service and software, essentially running all finance and IT systems for both entities from a single location. The Chief Financial Officer at WEDCO is now acting in a dual role for both entities. Compiled the asset and liability schedule for both entities. Established a marketing and PR joint strategy for the new entity. Relocated key staff to assist with the transition initiative, and liquidators have been appointed in accordance with the provisions outlined in the Companies Act 1981, as the BLDC is incorporated as a limited liability company. Not only has all this taken place, Mr. Speaker, but you may also recall in March 2023, this Honorable House approved the dissolution of the BLDC to ensure the seamless amalgamation of the entities. While it was the full intention for this initiative to be completed by January 2024, and I must clarify that operationally this target has been met, the merger team stands ready to complete the consolidation once the necessary legislative requirements are concluded. Hence, the bill being tabled today. Mr. Speaker, as I have said, we are in the final chapter. The newly named entity, the Bermuda Land Management Corporation, or BLMC, will manage all assets that both the formerly named WEDCO and the soon-to-be dissolved BLDC own. While the specific provisions of the West End Development Corporation Amendment Act 2024 will be debated at another time in accordance with the standing orders of this Honorable House, I wish to take the time to clearly state there will be no job losses following this merger. I must again commend the management and staff of both organizations, many of whom did not believe we would proceed and that their jobs would be in jeopardy if we did. I am particularly pleased to again thank both the Bermuda Industrial Union and the Bermuda Public Services Union for collaborating with us to revise the collective bargaining agreements so that they are ready for the Bermuda Land Management Company. Mr. Speaker, it took successive governments 21 years to get to this point today, and this PLP administration will bring this across the finish line. Mr. Speaker, first, thanks are given to the transition team comprising of Ms. Nicole Gift, Ms. Carmen Tucker, Mr. Stephen Tucker, Mr. Kent Bascom, Ms. Joanna Cranfield, Ms. Latanya Carmichael, all ably led by Mr. Andrew Diaz in his dual role as General Manager and CEO of both existing entities. Thanks are also given to the drafter of this legislation, Mrs. Catherine Balfour Swain, and our lawyer, Ms. Chantal Bailey at the Attorney General's Chambers, whom even with their limited staffing resources were able to ensure that this bill is ready within this legislative session, as mentioned in this year's throne speech. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to extend thanks to those officers within the ministry who assisted in this process as well, namely those in the Estates section of the Department of Public Lands and Buildings, Ms. Sudel Joseph, Mr. Sean Patterson, Ms. Regina Ferguson, and last but not least, Mr. Stephen Conway, the director of the department, who will retire at the end of this month. It is an amazing curtain call in bringing this 20-plus year initiative to a close. I would also like to extend a special thanks to Mr. Stephen Simons, our consultant policy analyst, who performed exceptional work in ensuring the final details of the merger, including the policy development and legislative implementation, were managed with the utmost care and attention. As the old saying goes, the devil is in the details. And for this merger, there were plenty. But Mr. Simons kept all parties in coordination and was instrumental in the delivery of this bill today. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank not only the current boards of both WEDCO and BRDC, which are led by the Honorable Member for Constituency 26, Mr. Neville Tyrrell, but I would also like to thank all former members who were involved in this process since 2018, including the former chair of the BRDC, the Honorable Member from Constituency 3, Ms. Levita Fogo. Mr. Speaker, this has been a long and arduous journey that you, I, and the Deputy Speaker have lived through. I am certain, though, that if other government entities wish to pursue a similar course of action, the process employed in this exercise will be an excellent template to follow. Now that we are reaching the end, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the upcoming debate and the bright future the Bermuda Land Management Corporation will have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Education. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to update this House and the listening public on decisions that have taken place to advance government's commitment to reforming Bermuda's public education system. As honorable members and the listening public are aware, the government is working on improving the Bermuda public education system. This includes phasing out middle schools, creating signature schools at the senior level. We're also creating parish primary schools with one primary school in each parish and 2 in Pembroke and St. George's parishes. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, I held a press conference to announce that Gilbert Institute and Prospect Primary will close at the end of June 2025. This follows the updates that we shared in May about the rescoring process. Mr. Speaker, the decision to close these 2 schools at the end of June 2025 was based on several factors. 1, the rescoring process did not alter any decisions for Central Zone schools. As such, the timelines for closures of these 2 schools shared with the school and broader community in April 2023 remains. 2, the capacity to accommodate the students from Gilbert and Prospect in other Central Zone schools. And 3, for Prospect Primary School, addressing the infrastructure issues to redevelop the site for the signature school for exceptionalities is more practical with the school being empty. Mr. Speaker, the principals and staff at both schools were notified before the public announcement, and subsequent meetings were held at each school site with staff and parents on Tuesday of this week. During these meetings, which were facilitated by the school principals and representatives from the Department of Education and the Education Reform Unit, more detailed information about staffing, decisions, school transfers, assistance for parents, and other logistics were discussed. The Department of Education will be working to ensure the transition is as seamless as possible and will facilitate a comprehensive implementation plan focusing on supporting students, their families, and staff. Mr. Speaker, since my press conference and the meetings held at schools with staff and parents, we have been paying close attention to public reactions in the media and on social media. We've also received feedback from concerned parents and the community. Some people are worried that there is not a plan in place, and I've even received a message recently expressing fear that the schools will not open in September 2024. I want to be clear. These schools will close in June 2025, not 2024. To address these concerns and provide more information, I would like to share more details for those who are interested. Mr. Speaker, students will be supported to understand the reason for the closure. We will explain why schools are closing. Counseling support. We will provide counseling for students both individually and in groups to help them through this change. Supportive activities. We will develop activities to help students cope with the school's closing. Student profiles. We will create detailed profiles for each student to share with their new school staff. Transfer of records. All academic records and files will be transferred to the new schools. Visits to the new school. We will arrange visits and tours to the new school so students can start getting to know their future classmates and teachers. new school orientation, as orientation will be held at the new schools to help students get settled, and feedback on upcoming events. We welcome students' input and feedback on the calendar of major events leading up to the last day of school. I wish to reiterate that this support is for each and every student at Gilbert Institute and Prospect Primary, including students in special programs who, with their families, will receive additional support across the next academic year to navigate this transition. Mr. Speaker, parents will also be supported too. Again, understand the reason for the closure. We will explain why schools are closing. Counseling support. We'll provide individual and group counseling for parents as needed. Information sessions. We will hold meetings and information sessions to keep everyone informed. Special program meetings. There'll be dedicated meetings for students on IEPs and other programs. Enrollment options. We will discuss the various enrollment options for your child. Visits to new schools. Site visits and tours to potential new schools will be organized for parents. New school orientations. Orientations will be held to help parents get familiar with their children's new schools. Transportation details. Information about public transportation options to new schools will be provided. Uniform and PE kits. We will share details about uniform and PE kits, including financial assistance available. Join the transition team. There will be opportunities for parents to serve or attend transition team meetings. And event calendar feedback. We will welcome parents' input and feedback on the calendar of major events leading up to the final date. Mr. Speaker, staff will be supported. Again, understanding the reason for closure. Staff career interests. We will inventory staff members' career and employment interests. Employment opportunities. Information on job opportunities and options along with the processes of each. Counseling support. Both individual and group counseling will be available. Join the transition team. Staff can join the school's transition teams. HR support. Human resources support will be provided to help with employment transitions. Wellness support, wellness resources, and support will be available. Complete responsibilities. Staff will be supported in the completion of closing out professional duties such as taking inventory at schools and etc. End year events. Assistance with and participating in the school's closing events. Regular updates. We will provide ongoing updates throughout the process. A contact person. A designated contact person will be available from the DOE to answer questions. DOE visits. Participate in regular check-ins with the Department of Education representatives. Feedback on the closing process. We will welcome ongoing feedback on the closing process and activities. And last but not least, calendar feedback. We'll invite teachers' input and feedback on the calendar of major events leading up to the final day. Mr. Speaker, the Commissioner of Education has been steadfast in our views that the activities and rhythm of the transition process must be co-developed with school sites and led by transition teams established for each school. These are views I wholeheartedly support. The closure of Heron Bay and Clearwater at the end of the last school year allowed the Department of Education to execute and test a school closing process. The insights gained from this experience have been incorporated in the approaches I have outlined. Mr. Speaker, it is essential to focus on the learning process as this been a consistent principle of our approach to education reform. Education reform is a staged and phased process. It is no secret that this is the single most transformative endeavor that Bermuda has ever undertaken. As such, we must be prepared to reflect on and improve our processes each time. We recognize that there are additional schools to phase out, close, or open, and we commit to improving our processes each time. Mr. Speaker, this leads me to the remainder of the plan to transition from a 3-tier to a 2-tier system. I can confirm that the remainder of the revised plan to transition from 3-tier to 2-tier will continue to be developed over the summer and will be ready to announce to all stakeholders in term 1 of the 24-25 school year. Mr. Speaker, as you can appreciate, this is a labor-intensive process, factoring in minimizing disruption to students, ensuring the transition happens with the least possible disruption for our children. Preschool locations. Preschools will need to be located at each parish primary site. Special programs placements. Special programs for functional skills, autism spectrum disorder, and Success Academy will need to be appropriately placed. Staff relocation. Details on how and where staff will be moved. Learning environment improvements. Information on construction timelines and the capacity for new learning environments. School transformation teams. Ensuring our team is capable and ready to support the expanding transformation process and advance notice of school closures, providing timely updates and advance notice for future school closures. Mr. Speaker, we know that the closures of Gilbert Institute and Prospect Primary will impact their communities and the broader community. As I said on Monday, and I will repeat here, losing a fixture in our community is hard. The History and Legacy Committee will uphold the cherished memories of both schools, ensuring their histories and legacies are duly recognized and honored. The committee will manage essential procedures to solicit, approve, and supervise projects to document, preserve, honor, and commemorate Bermuda's educational history and legacy, encompassing Gilbert Institute and Prospect Primary. Mr. Speaker, I understand that a full school transformation like ours can be lengthy and somewhat disruptive. However, through the Ministry of Education, the government of Bermuda is dedicated to improving public education for every learner. We will continue to provide regular updates to our BPSS staff, parents, community partners, unions, PTSAs, and the public through various communication channels and engagement events. Although change can be challenging, it remains crucial for our progress as a country. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the principals at Gilbert Institute, Jana Pitcher, Dr. Jana Pitcher, and Prospect Primary, Dr. Holly Richardson. They have demonstrated exemplary leadership throughout this week with their unwavering commitment to ensure our children achieve the best possible learning and life outcomes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors. Minister, would you like to present your statement now?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I rise to provide my honorable colleagues and the people of Bermuda with an update on the 6-month Dementia Care Services pilot program launched by the Ministry of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors in October of 2023. The pilot program was implemented to ensure persons living with dementia who are uninsured or underinsured have access to dementia care community support services. Mr. Speaker, dementia is an umbrella term for a degenerative terminal brain disease that impacts a person's ability to perform daily activities and make decisions. Dementia is becoming a global public health issue due to an aging population and risk factors, and Bermuda is a part of this trend. In Bermuda, we have an estimated 1,500 persons living with dementia. However, when we think of persons impacted by the disease, the number of persons affected by dementia is much higher than the number of persons diagnosed as dementia. Care services are usually provided for by family members. And as such, it is critical that dementia care services not only support persons with dementia, but also those persons who are their carers. Mr. Speaker, international best practice supports the development of dementia navigation programs that assess, educate, and support persons with dementia and their carers to help support a quality of life over the disease progression. These programs, such as the Care Ecosystem Model out of the University of California, San Francisco, have proven beneficial in reducing hospital admissions and increasing the quality of life for persons with dementia and their caregivers.
Continue on, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, due to the lack of dementia navigation and support services and charitable services that financially assist, family carers tend to experience a strain in maintaining persons in their homes. Also, poor support of family carers can result in hospitalizations, care crisis scenarios, and early admissions to facility-based long-term care. It is also critical to note that due to the deficits in available long-term care beds and daycare, persons with dementia requiring placement must remain in the community longer, placing additional strain on existing supports and increased risk. Aging and disability services struggle to support these clients due to their limited access to specialist support services. Mr. Speaker, consequently, in November of 2023, I shared with this honorable House that the Ministry of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors funded a 6-month dementia care services pilot program. The purpose of this pilot was to provide support and intervention services to persons with dementia and their carers while assessing the need and impact of such a program. The specialized support and intervention services provided under the pilot program included environmental assessments, cognitive screening, cognitive compensatory strategies, personal care planning, case management, caregiver education, and crisis intervention and prevention. Mr. Speaker, I also shared previously with this honorable House that North Star Dementia Limited, a local dementia specific care provider, was contracted to undertake the 6-month pilot program commencing in October of 2023 to offer these services. March 31st, 2024 marked the end of the pilot program, and we are pleased to report that the data was collected and collated for services provided during that period. Mr. Speaker, a total of 50 persons with dementia who were either underinsured or uninsured were provided dementia care services during the pilot along with their carers. The following are some of the key findings from the pilot program. 71% of the clients held future care insurance, 4% were uninsured, and the remainder had private health insurance coverage. 87% were unable to contribute financially to the cost of services. 45% of persons referred did not have a formal diagnosis of dementia. 71% of the primary caregivers were female and predominantly children of the persons with dementia. 49% of caregivers rated their current stress level as severe, and 5% of clients had no next of kin or family support available. Mr. Speaker, for the participants in the pilot program, 46 required an initial consultation only, which includes identifying signs and symptoms of dementia, guidance on how to get a diagnosis, identifying needed and available resources, and the next steps of recommendations. Another 46 required the full comprehensive dementia assessment plus follow-up case management services, including crisis intervention and prevention. Despite the short period of the pilot assessment, all programs performance measured obtained positive results from clients. Some of the feedback included the following: 90% of the clients find the services provided as beneficial, 10% somewhat beneficial, 60% stated they are much more knowledgeable about dementia in general, 75% of caregivers stated they are somewhat less stressed than before receiving the services, 55% stated their confidence had increased to implement care strategies, 55% indicated they were more aware of local resources to help persons with dementia and their carers. 75% of carers felt somewhat prepared to meet the caregiving needs of their loved ones, with 25% stating they felt very prepared post engaging in the dementia pilot program. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the following key actions occurred more amongst clients. 70% had a formal diagnosis by a medical profession. 40% of clients put a healthcare directive in place. 75% put an enduring power of attorney in place, and 60% had their mental capacity assessed. These actions are critical in obtaining a diagnosis of dementia. It is key so that you and your loved one knows what lies ahead and are prepared. Advanced planning is necessary to ensure those diagnosed can make their own decisions for as long as possible and have their wishes and preferences known and upheld when no longer able. It is encouraging to see when people have access to support services, progress occurs in the areas that are essential to help ensure a better quality of life. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as a result of the positive outcomes obtained during this dementia care service pilot program, the Ministry of Youth, Social Development and Seniors has extended the pilot for an additional 6 months from June to November of 2024. The data shows that the need is evident and growing. Also, moving forward, the ministry is committed to identifying sustainable funding for the provision of these services. Mr. Speaker, this is not the only action the government is taking to address dementia in our community. My honorable colleagues may be aware that June 15th, 2024 was recognized as World Elder Abuse Day, and the theme adopted by Aging and Disability Services this year was Dementia Staying Connected. This was an important theme as those persons with cognitive impairment and care needs are more at risk of abuse and neglect. As a result, the annual Seniors Tea held by Aging and Disability Services hosted over 100 seniors who received information on dementia, risk reduction, and support services available through presentations by Action on Alzheimer's and Dementia and North Star Dementia. In addition to the Seniors Tea, in recognition of World Elder Abuse Day, I made a virtual proclamation on June 14th, while officers from the Aging and Disability Services shared on the radio stations about senior abuse and the importance of supporting persons with dementia. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, a dementia action plan is being developed under the National Senior Strategy, which I will share more about in a future ministerial statement. The action plan is being prepared collaboratively with the Bermuda Health Council and includes our community and government partners to ensure we can collectively identify and implement comprehensive and targeted solutions to help address the needs of persons with dementia and their carers in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, in closing, a dementia diagnosis can be daunting for the person impacted and their family. So having affordable access to a resource for education, guidance, and support is critical. The Ministry of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors is committed to working with our public and private sector stakeholders to expand and improve dementia services and support. We thank these partners and look forward to our ongoing collaboration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Health. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I stand before this honorable House to announce the launch of a public consultation on pesticides regulations. This initiative, first announced in the speech from the throne in November 2022, marks a significant step towards ensuring the safe and responsible use of pesticides in Bermuda. While pesticides offer undeniable benefits in various sectors, their misuse poses potential risks to both our environment and the health of our people. Given Bermuda's unique vulnerabilities, our island's susceptibility to environmental damage, and our high population density with reliance on rainwater harvesting, it is crucial that we implement pesticide controls that are tailored to the specific risk that they pose. Mr. Speaker, the proposed pesticide regulations to be enacted under the Pesticide Safety Act 2009 aim to enhance the safety of pesticides use in Bermuda from both human health and environmental perspectives. The scope of these regulations is broad, potentially encompassing rules for importation, sale, use, and disposal of pesticides. However, recognizing the limitations of our current resources, we will prioritize the development of one or two sets of regulations initially, focusing on the most critical areas. Mr. Speaker, this public consultation will be instrumental in informing our decision on which areas to prioritize and in shaping the final form of the regulations. We invite all members of the public to participate in this crucial process by accessing the consultation on www.forum.gov.bm. Mr. Speaker, consultation participants will be invited to complete the online prioritization questionnaire and to sign up for participation in online focus group discussions, one for each stakeholder group. Dates will be confirmed at sign up, and focus groups will generally be held between the 19th of August and the 6th of September. Mr. Speaker, a series of stakeholder consultation meetings will be held in late August and early September to gather input and discuss key issues. In total, 9 focus groups will be convened online. Consultation meetings will be held with the general public, regulators, and retailers during the penultimate week of August. Non-governmental organizations, government pesticide users, and structural pest control businesses will similarly meet in the last week of August, and consultation meetings will be held with golf courses, landscapers, and farmers in the first week of September. Mr. Speaker, the overall consultation is expected to be performed in 4 phases. First, the aforementioned online prioritization questionnaire and comments on the Bermuda Citizens Forum. Second, the compilation of results. Third, online focus groups to review the results and hear further input directly from stakeholders. And lastly, compilation and publication of the final consultation report with recommendations. Mr. Speaker, we encourage all stakeholders, from government agencies and businesses to environmental organizations and individual citizens, to contribute their valuable insights and perspectives. Together, we can create pesticides regulations that effectively protect our environment and the health of our community while ensuring the continued availability of these important tools for those who rely on them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Mr. Speaker, today I wish to encourage this honorable House and the members of the public to join forces with the Ministry of National Security and the government as we aim to have a happy and safe summer. The sun is officially, as our forebears would say, across the line, and we are all excited to once again experience all that beautiful Bermuda has to offer during the summer. As the weather continues to warm up, I would like to provide a few key reminders, safety tips, and words of caution to help us navigate the season as we all spend some more time outside. Mr. Speaker, beaching and boating is a favorite summertime activity for many of us. In order to preserve safety, it is important that we exercise heightened caution when our outdoor activities take us near or on the water. Beachgoers are encouraged to heed the signage and advice given by the Department of Parks and our lifeguards. Parents are reminded to be particularly attentive to young children in and around the water. And older children should be taught good beach etiquette to ensure that beach days are safe and enjoyable for all beachgoers. Mr. Speaker, the Royal Bermuda Regiment Coast Guard will provide full maritime coverage over the summer months. The boating public can expect to see the Coast Guard on frequent inshore patrols. I implore residents to respect the authority of the Coast Guard, and I remind everyone that they have the power to issue tickets and arrest any individual suspected to be in contravention of the law. Mr. Speaker, it is important that boat operators check their vessels before every trip by ensuring that safety equipment is functioning. Whenever boaters plan to be out on the water, they should make sure that someone on land knows where they are headed and when they can be expected to return. Boat operators should not allow their vessels to be occupied by more people than the safe capacity of the boat, and life preservers should be available for everyone on board. Taking these simple steps will allow boaters to truly relax and be safe on their summer fun days. Mr. Speaker, speaking of boating, I want to remind boaters and watercraft operators to control their vessels responsibly and without the impairment of drugs or alcohol. We all know that operating a vessel requires skill and that one must pay attention to what is going on out on the water. I implore boat operators to be responsible and moderate their consumption of alcohol while in control of any marine vessel. Mr. Speaker, just as I am asking the public to exercise caution on the water, I also want to remind us to be cautious as we travel on the road. Summertime in Bermuda means an increase in social gatherings and an increased amount of people traveling on our roads, including our beloved tourists and returning university students. We are all aware of the devastating effects of drunk driving. Alcohol impairs our ability to safely operate vehicles and increases the danger to other road users. Accidents involving serious property and personal injury can and do occur. Mr. Speaker, I encourage people to enjoy their social gatherings and activities, but please do not drink and drive. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda Police Service will continue with their roadside sobriety testing program. Motorists can expect to be stopped along their journey and questioned on their alcohol intake by the police. To avoid the legal consequences of drinking and driving, please use a designated driver, a taxi, or other prearranged transportation for your travels. Mr. Speaker, my final cautionary message today is one of personal responsibility. It is hot outside, and hotter temperatures can sometimes mean hot heads and short tempers, particularly when alcohol consumption is involved. It is the personal responsibility of each of us to ensure that we do not allow a small annoyance to inflate into an incident of life-changing or domestic violence or social behavior. As we move about and participate in the liveliness of the summer season, I encourage us to promote the friendliness and respectfulness for which Bermuda is known. Mr. Speaker, it is my hope that this summer will be memorable for us for all the right reasons. I look forward to our people thoroughly enjoying county games, cup match, beach parties, barbecues, family gatherings in the parks and beaches, camping, outdoor concerts, and all those activities we like to do during the summer. Let us make this summer one of watching our children master new skills, spending quality time with our loved ones, and exploring all that our island home has to offer. Let us do all this with a mindset of individual responsibility and safety. Mr. Speaker, we must all work together to keep Bermuda safe over the summer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is the name of the Minister of Transport. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to residents and citizens of this beautiful country. Mr. Speaker, I stood in this very same spot on the 8th of March and spoke about abandoned vehicles. I'm honored to be able to stand again to update this honorable House and speak about a topic that is close to my heart and to the hearts of many Bermudians: cleaning up abandoned vehicles. Mr. Speaker, for too long, we have seen these rusty, broken down cars, bikes, trucks littering our streets, our parks, and our neighborhoods. They are not only an eyesore, but also a health hazard, a fire risk, and a source of pollution. They diminish the beauty and the dignity of our island, and they undermine our sense of pride and community. Mr. Speaker, for years, these vehicles have been lying around unsightly and neglected, scattered across our landscape like forgotten relics. They tarnish the beauty of our island, becoming eyesores in the midst of our surroundings. These abandoned cars, trucks, motorcycles, and auxiliary bikes are not just rusting hunks of metal. They are symbols of our neglect and reminder that we have strayed from the path of responsibility and care that once defined us. Mr. Speaker, when you and I were young, the words "Keep Bermuda Beautiful" were not just a slogan. They were a way of life. We took pride in our surroundings and understood the importance of maintaining the pristine conditions of our island. But somewhere along the way, those words have faded from our daily conversations and perhaps from our collective consciousness. Mr. Speaker, it is time to rekindle that spirit. It's time to take action and restore the beauty of Bermuda. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to our children and to the generations yet to come to ensure that Bermuda remains the paradise we know and love. Cleaning up these abandoned vehicles is not just an act of environmental stewardship, it's an act of community pride and civic duty. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to tell you that we have and are taking action. We are not going to tolerate this situation any longer. We're going to reclaim our public space and restore our environment. We're going to keep Bermuda beautiful. Words we do not hear often as when we were growing up, Mr. Speaker. We are going to show the world that we care about our island and our people, that we're willing to work together to make a difference. This is not a task that the government can do alone. It requires the cooperation and participation of all Bermudians. And I'm proud to say that we have seen an overwhelming response from the public. We have seen many calls, emails, and WhatsApp messages from concerned citizens reporting the locations of abandoned vehicles and urging us to take action. We have also heard significant from my good friends, the Progressive Labour Party members of Parliament, who have been vigilant and proactive in notifying the ministry where these vehicles are located. Mr. Speaker, on average, the department receives up to 4 or 5 reports per day via email and telephone. Our traffic officers continue to address the situation by ticketing these vehicles as soon as practicable after receiving the details. Since implementing a deliberate approach, over 37 motor cars and 21 motorcycles and auxiliary bicycles have received tickets and further processed on public roads and lands. The department continues to rely on the assistance of private help to tow motor cars and collector cycles. The cooperation of the public remains very helpful. In fact, members of the public recently identified a dumping ground in Pembroke Parish where 7 motorcycles had been stripped beyond recognition and abandoned. Those bikes have been collected and processed. This initiative continues to reap benefits because of the collaborative effort by the Transport Control Department and Parks Department, KBB, and private vendors who assist with vehicles removal. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that as of today, reporting date, our team will have addressed all reported abandoned vehicles by Tuesday, coming July 2nd. It is important to emphasize that departments involved cannot deal with vehicles abandoned on private property. However, advice is given to affect property owners regarding the proposal of vehicles as stipulated in Section 68 of the Motor Car Act 1951. I want to thank each and every one of you for your civic engagement and your sense of responsibility. You have shown us that you love our island and you want to see it thrive. And I also want to thank the team at TCD who have been working tirelessly and diligently to remove these vehicles and dispose of them properly. They have gone beyond the call of duty, often working long hours and in difficult conditions to clean up Bermuda. They have shown us that they are not just public servants, but public heroes. They deserve our gratitude and our applause. My friends, this is not just a matter of aesthetics. It is a matter of values. It is a matter of respect for ourselves, respect for our neighbors, respect for our island, and respect for our future. When we clean up abandoned cars, we are not just removing junk, we are removing obstacles to our vision, our potential, our prosperity. We are creating space for beauty, space for opportunity, space for growth. We are making a statement that we are not complacent, that we are not indifferent, and we are not hopeless. We are making a statement that we are active, that we are involved, that we are hopeful. Mr. Speaker, the Progressive Party is making a difference that we can see, a difference that we can feel, and a difference that we can celebrate. We are making a difference that inspire others and that will motivate others, that will challenge others. We are making a difference that will make Bermuda a better place for ourselves, for our children, and for generations to come. So let us continue, Mr. Speaker, this work. Let us continue this movement. Let us continue this mission. Let us keep Bermuda beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement, which is the final statement this morning, is in the name of the Minister of Cabinet. Minister?
Good morning and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to advise honorable members of this House on current government activities that are geared to ensure that we conduct public procurement at a global standard. The theme, Mr. Speaker, of this year's throne speech is serving the people. This is primarily about improving service delivery throughout government. There has been increased activity in government in competition with the rest of the world in acquiring goods and services necessary for recovery after the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Office of Project Management and Procurement has been instrumental in and continues to play a key role in economic recovery initiatives, government reform initiatives, and business continuity across ministries. The Office of the Project Management and Procurement has now taken the next step towards leveraging sustainable public procurement, SPP, by actively participating in a tailored public procurement program led by the United Nations Environment Program. This will involve capacity building amongst public officers, along with a deeper understanding of interministry operation and collaboration. This is key to ensuring sustainable public procurement and more efficient project planning, delivery, and public implementation. Mr. Speaker, this initiative will include the following: customized training for authorized public officers, which will increase capacity and knowledge; stabilizing existing procurement processes to ensure better planned and controlled spending; implementing and monitoring more sustainable public procurement criteria that will promote small and medium-sized enterprises on the island. Mr. Speaker, in September 2022, the Director and Senior Management of the Office of Project Management and Procurement were successful in adding Bermuda to the next group of member countries identified for specialized training toward development of sustainable procurement. This United Nations initiative and related courses are designed to support the development of sustainable public procurement legal frameworks and strategies. Some of the tools for implementation and use include, but are not limited to, guidelines in key economic sectors, economic social governance considerations, and knowledge of sustainable public procurement for persons operating in both the public and the private sectors alike. Mr. Speaker, the secondary aim of this program will enable the development of a modern, transparent, cost-effective public procurement legal framework. This will, in turn, positively impact the operational environment of the delivery of the government's capital projects. As we make progress in sustainable procurement, we will have to remain agile and fluid while being responsive to changing dynamics within the private sector and within government. Participating in this project will also enhance Bermuda's maturity and standing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal SDG 12.7.1, along with targets and indicators on the number of countries implementing sustainable public procurement policies and plans. Mr. Speaker, in February 2024, the United Nations Environment Program signed a small-scale funding agreement with Crown Agents Limited, UK, to be its implementing partner for leveraging sustainable public procurement for COVID-19 recovery in the small island developing states of the Caribbean project. The overall objective of the project is to maintain sustainable public procurement, SPP criteria and practices as a tool for COVID-19 green recovery and sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, Crown Agents Limited is currently reaching out and engaging OPMP and other government agencies and stakeholders to start the implementation phase. Other governments included in our grouping include Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago. Going forward, OPMP will work with the Crown Agents team and provide any necessary information and documentation that will facilitate the effective implementation of the Sustainable Procurement Program. Mr. Speaker, I would like to add to inform this Honorable House that other than the time of the public officers who will be involved in this initiative, this will be at no cost to the government. And Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Office will be providing updates on this as we move ahead. I again wish to remind our honorable members that this effort involves cross-ministry collaboration to ensure effectiveness and optimal benefits. I therefore ask for your continuous support and assistance through this project. To this end, the dedicated and committed public officers within the Office of Project Management and Procurement will work continuously to make this worthwhile effort a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, members, ministers, for your statements this morning. Members, that brings us to a close of statements for today. So we'll now move on. The next item on the order paper are reports of committees. There are none. That then moves us to the question period for today. And this morning we have written questions as well as questions from the statements that were read this morning by ministers. We'll start with the written questions. And the first question this morning is from the opposition leader to the Minister of Economy and Labor. Opposition leader, would you like to put your question now?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to the honorable colleagues and to the listening public. Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for immigration indicated in a December 2021 ministerial statement that an immigration digitization or automation project was underway. On 11 March 2024, the honorable minister stated that the project is a priority. Will the honorable minister please provide this honorable house with an update on the current status of the project?
Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate that the digitization project remains a priority for this government. The Department of Immigration has now strategically used RFI, which was put out by the Information and Digital Technologies Department, to identify smart government partners to transform Bermuda. This request for information will now enable the Department of Immigration to jumpstart engagement with prospective vendors. Currently, the government is now working with the newly formed digitization team within the Bermuda government to deal with request for proposal and begin the vendor selection process.
Thank you, Minister. Supplementary questions?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary?
Would the Honorable Minister be able to give us prospective timelines relating to the current work stream of RFI or of the RFP, please?
Minister?
The matter to be discussed is whether or not the RFP is the appropriate process, since the RFI has already gone out, and whether or not there can be a selection of vendors from the pool of individuals that responded to the RFI. The other thing is that the digitization team wants to ensure that whatever is placed in front of the prospective vendors, they have the capabilities to complete the full suite of activities. One of the lessons we learned in advance is that you have persons that will have the skill sets to enable digitized processes, but then also the delivery on the back end of that and the system support that's required on an ongoing basis. You need to ensure that you have the requisite skill set and technology to support any system that you put in place. And so this is a holistic approach to the exercise.
Further sub or your second question?
Further supplementary, I thank the Honorable Minister for the clarity. Would he be able to speak to, or is he in a position to speak to, the digitization team's work and their timeline to make sure that we keep up with this project?
Minister?
As we have received capital funding for this fiscal period, it is my expectation and the minister's expectation that the project be initiated and the substantial portion of the project be completed in this fiscal period, so that the funds allocated can be utilized and placed towards the project.
Second question?
Yes, please, Mr. Speaker. Second question, as of June 2023, the government had spent $356,888 on the digitization project. The 2024-2025 capital acquisitions estimates for the Ministry of Economy and Labor show that a further $150,000 has been allocated for this project. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House as to how much the government has spent on this project to date?
Minister?
There have been no funds used from the 2024-2025 funding allocation.
Supplementary?
No supplementary. Third question, please.
Question, yes.
On 6 March 2023, the Honorable Minister said that he would inquire with the Chief Immigration Officer to determine how she monitors complaints relating to work permits and passports. That's passport applications, as complaints would be something he would want to keep track of. Will the Honorable Minister please update this Honorable House on the complaint tracking and resolution process?
Minister?
Based off the wording of the question, I would believe that the question is isolated to the tracking of work permit and passport complaints, rather than other compliance complaints, which has to deal with policy and legislation. So I'll attempt to speak to that, because there's two separate mechanisms used to track complaints. But the complaints are managed by the Department of Immigration, and these are handled on a case-by-case basis. Oftentimes, when complaints come as it pertains to passports or work permits, they are resolved in a timely manner. And so there is no case management or tracking device for complaints that may come in regarding work permits and passports. You will recognize that if somebody's passport is delayed, or there may be a typographical error on a work permit that has been issued, those sorts of things are handled by multiple vendors within the department, rather than going to a centralizing case tracking system. And so there is a fundamental difference between the two. But I would want to inform the public and members of this House that for any complaints against breaches of immigration law and policy, we take that extremely seriously. We often receive anonymous complaints that have been submitted by members of the general public, and we ask persons to submit those complaints to the hotline at 296-5202 or via the compliance manager at kwpburgess@gov.bm. Other means of reporting breaches is by person in attendance to the Department of Immigration or sending a letter to the Chief Immigration Officer. The compliance section also receives complaints from the Bermuda Police Service and other government departments or internally within the Department of Immigration itself. Once complaints is received, it is reviewed to ensure that it's sufficient information to proceed with an investigation. The Department of Immigration requires as much detail about the alleged breach as can be provided to allow inquiries to be made. If a complaint, whether anonymous or not, is only able to provide vague details, the officers will have little to no avenue to pursue, and so it is unlikely an investigation will continue. Finally, all complaints for breaches against immigration law and policies are recorded electronically by the compliance section.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes, please, Mr. Speaker. Would the Honorable Minister be able to speak to any improvements to processes and procedures within the department based on complaints received from the public?
Understood.
Most definitely. Mr. Speaker, I meet with the senior management of the Department of Immigration on a weekly basis, and that is the basis of the conversation that we do have. One of the areas is in terms of how we can improve our customer service, how can we improve our internal processes within the department. And so we go on continual ongoing processes of reforming the way in which we do work so that we can meet the expectations of the public.
That's the end. That's the end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Members, that brings us to the close of the question period for this morning. We will now move on to the questions that arose from the statements. And the first statement that has the questions this morning, Premier, is your second statement, and it's from the opposition leader. Opposition leader, would you like to put your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Premier's statement related to a payroll or the payment portal facilitating payment for parking tickets. However, I note that a number of other kinds of tickets are issued by the authorities, including moving violation tickets, such as under the Road Traffic Act, Motor Car Act, etc. These are the majority of the tickets, and they have the most impact on current road traffic conduct. So if the Honorable Premier could explain when we're going to see the moving violation tickets rolled out.
Premier?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that's under a separate process, as those would be fines that will be issued by judges after persons have to actually go in front of the court. But the view, as stated in the statement, is that for all payments that are done in any space to the government of Bermuda, those will eventually be added to the payment portal pay.gov.bm.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you. The Honorable Premier spoke to some of the hurdles facing the problems with moving or putting the moving violation tickets into the system. He'd mentioned that the matter has to go before judges before the amount can be set. Can the Honorable Minister speak to if he's engaged with the judiciary as yet to start resolving those hurdles?
Premier?
At this point in time, there's no work stream in regards to moving violations, but the team has the vision overall. The team has been working with members of the judiciary and others on these particular matters, and there will be further announcements in due course.
Second sub or a new question?
New question, please.
Question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Honorable Minister be able to speak to some of the other services that are going to be rolled out onto the payment portal this year?
Mr. Speaker, we will be working with a number of government departments. We know that there's a number that are slated to be added, and when those things are added and confirmed, the Honorable House will continue to be informed. The vision is for all payments that are currently done at the cashier's counter to be done. But what we are not going to do is to rush this, because we want to make sure that just not to add additional processing to the back end. We want to make sure that items are clearly linked inside the system, making auditing and other things a lot more quick and effective. So as more items are rolled out, we will announce them in due course.
Supplementary?
None, Mr. Speaker. Third
No
question.
question. Go ahead.
Thank you. The Honorable Premier had spoken to the cybersecurity guidance and protecting privacy principles for not retaining credit card information. Would the Honorable Premier be able to speak to what is the cybersecurity guidance that he is referring to?
Premier?
The team, when the Form C, make sure they worked on anything that is launched. I think it's important to note that I think we've launched about 40 or 50 online services since the pandemic and the Form C was put together. That team has now moved over to the digital transformation team, and they always look to review to make sure that any particular principles that minimize risk to ensure that person's information can be secure. So from this particular case and aspect, there is no storing of any credit card and or personal information on servers. For the parking tickets, the only information that is going to be stored on government services will be the parking ticket number, the parking ticket date, and whether or not the payment transaction was successful.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, Mr.
Go ahead.
Speaker. Does the guidance that the Honorable Premier is referring to stem from or take any lessons such as improvements or recommendations outlined in the report on the cyber hack given to government?
Premier?
I'm certain I don't think that is the case. I think he's trying to conflate two particular issues. These are things that the team continues to work on, Mr. Speaker, and as they roll out new services, they're going to continue to make sure that they're following the latest best practice.
Second sub?
Yes, please, Mr. Speaker.
Uh,
Does this guidance mean that the government will purge or delete the existing payment and credit card details it currently holds?
I'm not entirely certain what payment or credit card details we currently hold, but if the honorable member has any details on that we should share, happy to take that back to the teams.
That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Premier, on the same statement, you have questions that the MP Premier would like to put to you. Chairman?
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to the Honorable Premier. Given the welcome news that Bermudians should finally be able to pay parking tickets online, can the Honorable Premier and Finance Minister share with the public and this Honorable House roughly how much money is due in unpaid parking tickets?
Don't have that information.
Yeah, I don't think it was contained in the statement either. Yeah. Try and keep it to contained to what was in the statement. He didn't have, he didn't have figures in the statement.
Yes, that's why I was asking the question, because there are no figures given in the statement.
It wasn't contained.
Supplementary. Presumably the Honorable Premier does have a rough idea about how much is due, 1 million, 2 million, et cetera.
Remember, the statement, the question should be confined to what the statement wasn't particularly looking at the funds that need to be collected or the funds that are outstanding. It was thinking about bringing this program in place so that all government services could be, or payments could be put online. It didn't address, it wasn't speaking to outstanding fees, costs, et cetera, et cetera. So that really is outside the scope of the question.
With respect, Mr. Speaker, the statement was about a portal that was going to allow payments of parking tickets, and I'm
But
trying to establish how much.
It wasn't speaking to the extent of what that cost is, the month that's outstanding. It's speaking to a program that's going to allow a person to be able to go in and pay online. It didn't, there could have been a statement that spoke to the reason for this is because the cost is outrageous, or the back payments outrageous, et cetera. It didn't speak to that. It spoke to the fact that this program is going to get the ability to do that. So
I'll move on.
I wouldn't expect that information to be contained. I wouldn't expect that information to be contained in the response of the speaker, right? In response of the premier to the question, because it wasn't based in the formation of the statement.
Okay, I'll move on. My second question, Mr. Speaker, is does the Honorable Premier envisage any period of amnesty for the people who are going to pay on this new portal to pay their tickets? And if so, will they be able to pay during an amnesty period at the original fee of the original ticket? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe there's any particular change in regards to the regulations that exist right now. The fee is at $75 and persons can go online and pay those fees.
Supplementary, MP Jackson.
Yes, I have a question. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. When a person makes that payment for a particular parking ticket, will there be any notification of additional outstanding parking tickets that a person may have? So, because I know that there are a lot of people out there that may have 10, 15, 60 outstanding parking tickets. Will this system pick that up and notify the payee at the time?
Premier?
As- The answer to the question, Mr. Speaker, is no. As explained, the system is a payment portal that allows, it's not logging in, it's not going to other information, it's not tying all the rest. It is entering the ticket number, etc. We are making this thing very, as they built it to be very, I would say, minimal, so that the minimum amount of information is collected and needed and able to process. So for this particular instance, as has been stated, it is parking ticket number and parking ticket date. The amount is paid, and then we process through.
Supplementary?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So if a person does not pay their parking ticket, is that a manual enforcement to chase after the unpaid parking ticket, or is there any, what happens if you just don't pay your ticket anyway?
It's be like it is today. Premier?
Mr. Speaker, let me try to help honorable members opposite. As explained in my statement, if you were issued a parking ticket, currently you go to the building across the street, go through security, go up the stairs, stand in line, present your ticket information, pay the ticket. Sorry?
You sound pretty familiar. I didn't even know that.
I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, I have never had a parking ticket. In that case, it exists. That much being said, Mr. Speaker, that is the process. The process will change. The only process that is being changed is individuals can still do that, or they can go to pay.gov.bm. There is no other change to anything surrounding what is taking place regarding parking tickets, except for the fact that it is paying. This is not a statement on parking tickets. This is a statement on payment portals, which are being launched, and the first service, which is being put as part of this in working with the judiciary, was someone that did come up often in our consultation, and it is being added as the first step.
Any further supplement?
Yes,
And
supplementary?
Supplementary?
Yes. Premier, can you confirm if there are any boat parking tickets outstanding?
Premier?
Mr. Speaker, I do not have any knowledge on that.
Supplementary, you had your two supplementaries. MP Pyramid, did you have a further supplementary or question? None? Okay, no further supplementaries or questions on that. Premier, that brings it close to questions on your statement. We'll now move on. The next statement this morning that members would like to ask questions is that of the Minister of Education. Minister of Education, the Deputy Opposition Leader, would like to put a question to you.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, would the Honorable Minister be able to let us know whether he anticipates any changes to staffing employment due to the scheduled closure for next June for both the schools that we're closing?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as all staff that are substantive government employees or public servants will be retained and transferred to other schools or within the public service. At this point, I can state that every single person at Prospect Primary and Gilbert Institute are substantive post holders, so they will be retained.
Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Does the minister anticipate any transfers happening in this upcoming school year starting in September due to the potential changes that will happen next summer?
Premier? Minister, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, as stated in the statement, that is the responsibility of the Department of Education, more specifically the Commissioner of Education. And so as the conversations take place, I cannot speculate what could come up as they discuss opportunities with individual employees within the department.
Supplementary?
Second question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, considering that the minister said that they learned several lessons from the closure of the schools last year, would he be able to let us know whether any data was collected on transfers that would have happened once the announcement is made for school closures to other schools and maybe outside of public education?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the announcement was made Monday. The meeting with parents was Tuesday, and I'm going to assume that if there are any transfers that are a direct result of this, they have to come to the Department of Education, apply for a transfer. The transfer has to be accepted, so there will be data that will be kept to say who's moving from what school or not. It's something that we learned from previous, that we do want to have an additional question. The department wants to have an additional question that talks about why the transfer is being done, which simply wasn't asked before.
Supplementary or new question?
Supplementary.
Go ahead.
So my original question was, did the minister learn that there was a uptick in transfers once the announcement was made the last time, so that it would give you informed decision of the potential of transfers that will happen from the announcement that has just happened on Monday? So that would allow us to know whether we should anticipate massive transfers, small amount of transfers. What did they learn from that first time that we can now inform us for what has just happened?
So I'm trying to get a specific question that you could put to the minister out of that one. I know you're referencing what happened before, and if there's something from before that we use as a scale for now.
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? But you need to put in a question for him there.
So the data that would have been collected from the first set of closures last year, what has that data taught them about what we should anticipate for transfers from the schools that will close next year, considering that it's a year from now? They would have learned that same lesson when that announcement was made for the prior closures.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm still a bit hazy, but I'm going to try and go through what I think the honorable member is asking. From my understanding, the closures we did in last year for Heron Bay and Clearwater resulted in all of those students being transferred to other public schools. If there's a net difference of 0, I'm not sure what we're going to learn from that. It's anticipated that all of the students at Gilbert Institute and Prospect Primary will transfer to other public schools as well. If the member is asking, if he is trying to ask how many students transferred to private schools, which I think he's trying to ask, no, we do not have that data, because last year, from my understanding, everybody went to public schools.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Just a second sub on that topic. Yeah.
When the announcement was made for last year, parents would have made a decision in advance whether they should enroll students into the school that was going to close, or whether they would transfer their student in anticipation of the closure. Was that the information that was learned through round 1, which would now allow us to say there is a potential that we will have smaller class sizes going into this September for both of the schools that will close next summer?
It may be speculation at this point, and the question shouldn't be of a speculative nature. Okay, so I was trying to get you to fine tune a bit more, but it can be a speculative nature. Okay, any further questions? No further questions? Thank you, members. Members, the next statement that members who wish to ask question is the statement from the Minister of Transport. Minister, MP Pyramid would like to put questions to you. MP?
Good morning again.
Morning.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, you have updated the House today on your statement about the derelict bikes and the cars, and you've referred back to your prior statement, the 8th of March. And in your statement, you described that you are taking action to get this done. And it's welcome news if indeed 21 bikes and 37 cars have been moved. So if that's true, then welcome news. But what you said, however, is that you have thanked people. You relied on the assistance of the private help to remove them, and then you also thanked the TCD. And I'm just wondering who affected the removals of the vehicles. Was it both private assistance and TCD, or was it all TCD? Thank you.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we have to hire trucks to actually put the vehicles on, and that's what I'm talking about when I say private individuals. So we have hired an individual who actually picks up the trucks or bikes. The traffic officer, the one who goes out. Then we have Mr. Trot, I'm just using the name, who has a truck. We put the vehicles on his truck and takes it wherever we need.
Supplementary. That removal of vehicles previously used to be carried out by TCD using a TCD vehicle, correct?
We've always rented used another truck, the person's truck.
Supplementary?
So the removal has always been through private rental vehicles.
I can't say that it's always been, but you're right. I'm not always been the minister, so I'm not sure how you guys handle it. Did you move any trucks? I'm not sure you can let us know about the.
Second question.
Yes.
Second question. Just in terms of the process, when the bike or car is collected, before it goes to the dump, it has to have oil or petrol, if still left in the vehicle, removed. How does that process work?
Mr. Speaker, we rely on the person that we hired to actually do all that work for us.
Supplementary? None. Members, that brings us to a close of the question period for today. And thank you. They'll now move on. The next item on the order paper this morning are congratulatory and obituary speeches. Would any member wish to make a contribution? The Premier, you have your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to probably preempt the Minister of Education. I'm sure we'll be bringing extensive congratulations, Mr. Speaker. But I just wanted to note that the Minister and I, as I said earlier, did have the opportunity to stop by the Cedar Bridge Academy earlier today. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I'm not in a red tie, but more of a maroonish tie for their school colors. But still,
I just thought it was red and blue.
But that's fine. You can assume such, because that is all I shall wear until we retain the cup. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, it was great to stop by to see the 72 graduates, 60% of them who are going on to further education, a number of them who are part of the dual enrollment program, FenPosta program, ones who are getting scholarships to go to future education, and also Bermudian students who were selected for the Morgan State University Summer Academy of Actuarial and Mathematics Sciences program, something else that the government has executed to make sure that young people have increasing opportunities to prepare themselves for future economy. So I just wanted, Mr. Speaker, to extend my congratulations to all of those students who will be graduating. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, I did also have the opportunity to cut the ribbon at a former place of employment of myself, and this was at the Barracuda Grill by the Island Restaurant Group. And I did want to recognize and actually send congratulations. It is somewhere where I did work. Was a bartender more than 20 years ago when I returned back from university in 2003. But it was a pleasure to be invited for that ribbon cutting, and I do wish them the best. Mr. Speaker, I will close with a condolence note, which I do not believe was done, Mr. Speaker. I'd certainly like to associate members of the House with this, but I do wish to send condolences to the family of my late constituent, Miss Patty Jean Millett of Princess Estate. Mr. Speaker, she was laid to rest last week, Friday. is someone who persons inside of the, I would say, the Pembroke Park area know very well. There was a massive attendance and outpouring at her homegoing ceremony, and I just want to make sure to extend my deepest sympathies to her children, Kijana, known as Kiki, Didi, Zalika, known as Zazie, and Jaja, and to her entire family, for all of her grandchildren, Miss Sequoia Millet, her great grands, the godchildren, all of those who were there, who are members of my family as well, Mr. Speaker. It was a homegoing service that was worthy of the lady who gave her heart to the community. And I would ask the Honorable House to send a letter of condolence to the family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Would any other member? Ladies, we'll go with MP Ming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, listening audience. I would like to, first of all, be associated with the comments for Patty. Kijana was in my year in Berkeley, and that is a house that I used to frequent in my younger days. On a happier note, I would like to congratulate the 6 Dame Jennifer Smith Award winners for this year. This is the 19th year that we have celebrated young people who have shown early leadership skills, Mr. Speaker. And I'd also like to associate MP Dickinson and MP Figure, MP Simmons. But the winners, the persons, the young people that were selected for this year from East End Primary was Isabella Innes, a young lady who seems to be extremely sassy and very confident. And Mr. Caden Birch, who was such a gentleman at the tender age of 10. And from St. George's Preparatory School was Miss Marley Williams. And of course, Mr. Riley Millett. And from St. David's, we honored Ian Welch and Kennedy Keynes. These are young people, Mr. Speaker, who are not just academic young people, but they are doing things within their communities. They are advocates. They are just that leaders. I'd also like to congratulate the Eastern Area Schools on their graduations, in particular, East End Primary School, St. George's Preparatory School, and the St. George's Preschool. It's always a good time of the year to see our young people celebrating their accomplishments, and that's the time they're in. But of course, it would be remiss not to just celebrate all of our graduates that we have at this time. There was also a ceremony, Mr. Speaker, at East End Primary for the Cherie Hayward Award, and if from St. George's, she definitely knew who Cherie Hayward was and what she brought to the community. She was truly a legend, and she was known for her keenness and involvement within the community. And just a quick congratulations to all of the young people at East End Primary who received Cherie Hayward Awards, Mr. Speaker. And I'd also like to congratulate Ebenezer Methodist Church, which is headed up by Pastor Cyril Simmons. He had a Western Caribbean service on Sunday, and it was excellent. I saw some of my colleagues, parents down there celebrating their heritage, but also culturally looking at where we are as a country and the diverse mix that we have, Mr. Speaker. So congratulations to Pastor Cyril and his congregation for putting on an awesome service that included young people singing the steel pan, this young lady who played the steel pan, and the service was brought by Mr. Singh. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Ming. Members, I'm going to call on the Minister of Education at this time, because I think what he is about to do now is a recognition that we would all like to concur with. And is she able to come in?
Yes.
I'm going to do a special invitation to the person that he's going to acknowledge. As the minister offers his congratulations to her, I'm going to ask the Sergeant of Arms if the visitor would like to escort her into our chambers this morning, if she wishes to join us in the chamber inside the area. Right, Minister. And Minister Estes coming. You can go ahead and speak to. Yes, go right ahead.
Colleagues, I would like for you to recognize Ms. Gladys Barney, who is visiting Bermuda to celebrate her 100th birthday.
You could have brought Sarge. You could bring up the middle, Sarge. Bring up the middle, Sarge.
Colleagues, Miss Barney was born in Bermuda 100 years ago and wanted to be a nurse. She studied and graduated in 1947, but left Bermuda when she learned that Black nurses were banned from working at King Edward. Colleagues, Ms. Barney graduated in 1947 and always wanted to be a nurse, but was heartbroken to learn when Black nurses were banned from working at King Edward and relocated to New York, where she worked 8 years at Lincoln Hospital in Bronx and 26 years at the Flushing Medical Center. For 26 years, she retired in 1982, but keeps active in her local church. And again, she's visiting Bermuda to celebrate her 100th birthday.
We wish for you to note that all members have stood this morning to give recognition to you, and we welcome you into our chambers. We understand the history of why you left Bermuda, and we trust that when you're back in Bermuda now, you can see progress that has changed that, and that we're able to go forward beyond the reasons that raced you out of Bermuda all those years ago. We wish you continue well, and I'm almost hard to say that you're 100 years old. You look like you're so young and spruceful there, you know. You moved in here quite easily. I almost said easier than some of our other members who come in sometimes. But we welcome you into our chambers this morning. Feel free to sit and enjoy the session as long as you wish. When you're ready to leave, we'll make sure you're escorted out accordingly. Okay, members, thank you.
I did have one more.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I do want to join the Premier in sending congratulations and other members. And I did last week send a blanket, send a blanket congratulations to all schools. But specifically, Mr. Speaker, in all of our schools, it's called a leaving ceremony. Our high schools are the only ones that graduate, and they're the ones that graduate and go, and they're leaving the education system. And so at the Barclay Institute, we had 126 persons cross the stage on Wednesday, and today, we had 72 persons cross the stage at Cedar Bridge, all of them of extremely high caliber. As the Premier noted, we had dual enrollment students. We had students that have been inducted into the Honor Society, the Educational Honor Society at the Bermuda College. We had students that across the stage that have received their college diploma prior to getting their high school diploma. So the future does look bright, Mr. Speaker, for those young men and women who crossed the stage today, and I wish them all congratulations and all the best in their future endeavors. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to take this time, and I will associate the entire House of the retirement effective at 5 p.m. today of Permanent Secretary Jasmine Smith. Mr. Speaker, I've had the pleasure of having her as my permanent secretary for the last 2.5 years. She is a wealth of knowledge. She knows just about everything that has to do with government and how to get it done and how to get it across the line. I understand that she spent just over 22 years in government, and the story she tells me, she's worked with ministers from as far back as the initial Progressive Labor Party government, ministers from the One Bermuda Alliance. The One Bermuda Alliance would know her more specifically as she's the one who led their America's Cup efforts. Without her, we might not have seen the event come off as it did. And so, but Mr. Speaker, after 22 plus years, she is retiring today, and I just want colleagues to join me in wishing her well in her future endeavors.
I'm sure the whole House will support you on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Would any other member like to? MP Lister.
Good morning, Mr.
3
Speaker.
minutes.
Good morning to the listening audience. I would like to, on a sad note, start by sending condolences to the family of Mr. Gary Smith of 25 Burnt House Hill in Warwick, Mr. Speaker, and also to the family of Miss Joan Gilbert, husband of Mr. Colin Gilbert, a PLP party, wife of Mr. Colin Gilbert, who is a member of the PLP party. While I didn't know his associate, the PLP side of the House, Mr. Speaker, well, the whole House, Mr. Speaker, While I didn't know his wife, specifically, I know Mr. Gilbert being around and speaking with him, and it's always hard losing someone. So I would like to send condolences to him and the rest of the Gilbert family. And Mr. Speaker, on a lighter note, it's always a joy when I open the Royal Gazette. And I'm a passionate sports person. I always read the sports page and see Bermudians competing internationally around the world, and that they always represent Bermuda, showing that we can compete on a big stage. So with that, I would just like to also send congratulations to Mr. Scott Barnes, who recently competed in the associate with MP De Silva, who recently competed in the SCUSA Pro Tour Spring Nationals, where that's karting, not golf karting, but karting. He got a podium finish, and he actually did multiple podium finishes in that championship. And also to the national swim team, Mr. Speaker. Recently, they just competed in the Central American and Caribbean Swimming Championships in Mexico. And they represented Bermuda well, bringing home 11 medals, 2 golds, 2 silvers, and 7 bronzes. And so again, I'd like to say congratulations to them and all sports persons that represent Bermuda internationally. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I would also like to associate with the comments from the Education Minister regarding the retirement of P.S. Smith. In my time as chairman of the Bermuda Road Safety Council, I had to work closely alongside of her while she was the PS in the Ministry of Transport. And so I, again, would like to just say for the years that she done and the knowledge that she has always been a valuable asset. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to send congratulations to 2 members of this House, Mr. Speaker, MP Levita Fogo, and to the Attorney General, Kathleen Simmons, recently celebrated their birthdays. I won't say the ages, but again, I'd like to send congratulations and happy birthday to 2 members of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Minister Weeks, you're quick on your feet. I'll have your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to send congratulations again to the Harrington Psalm Primary Schools Administration, teachers, staff, and of course, their students. Mr. Speaker, I will declare my interest. I know a few people down at Harrington Psalm Primary School. Mr. Speaker, this public primary school, who continues to do amazing things, has done it yet again. The Harrington Psalm Primary School was awarded this year the critically acclaimed and internationally coveted and recognized Green Flag, which demonstrated that their commitment to the preservation and sustainability of our environment. In their assembly a few days ago, Mr. Speaker, they received from the BUEI a rededication of their Green Flag for the 2nd year and their Eco Club Warriors, a group of about 15 dedicated young environmentalists, students between the ages of 5 and 10 years old, Mr. Speaker. They worked tirelessly to ensure that the entire school was conserving water and energy this year. These initiatives included, but was not limited to, Mr. Speaker, creating and distributing signs for each room in the 2 school buildings, which reminded the users to turn off the lights when leaving the rooms, offices, having a brownout where teachers and students worked by the light of sun rather than artificial light. These small acts, among others, Mr. Speaker, made a huge impact on the school's electricity bill, and the school was able to significantly lower its monthly energy bill over this year. This was recognized by BELCO, and on Monday, June 24th, the Harrington Psalm Primary School was awarded the Notable Green Cup Award by a BELCO representative. Please join me, Mr. Speaker, in congratulating this forward-thinking, innovative public primary school, the Harrington Psalm Primary.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? MP Fogo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would just like to be associated with the congratulatory remarks for the 2 public senior schools, Berkeley and Cedar Bridge Academy, the Eastern Area Primary School, preschools, and Mr. Speaker, the congratulatory remark for the Dame Jennifer Smith Leadership Awards. Those young people in their respective schools have acquitted themselves extremely well, and they deserve the recognition. However, on a much sadder note, Mr. Speaker, I am standing in this House today to speak condolences to the Wilson family. On the passing, I'd like to associate Minister Tanae Furbert on the passing of a Bermudian icon, I would say, Dr. Clyde Wilson. Many people don't know of his achievements, but they were many, and they spanned international borders. Indeed, Dr. Wilson is probably the most accomplished person in Bermuda when it comes to publications. He has done many articles that have been recognized worldwide, and he has contributed to at least 6 books when it comes to the scientific world and research. These books are books that are used in the highest of academia and in the medical arena. Dr. Wilson was a personal friend, a family friend, I would call him, but he was a man who gave much to persons, graduate students and undergraduate students, especially in the world of research. When he was in England, which was for many years, he held a program which to the tune of £500 million, where in that program, he helped students from all over the world with his institution to become recognized in their areas of expertise in their research and the like. He brought that to the shores of Bermuda, his home, and also assisted many students here, especially when it came to research, and started a student program at King Edward Memorial. He will be greatly missed by family, and he is a loss to all of Bermuda. Thank you, Mr.
member.
Speaker.
Does any other member with government whip? Mr. Terrell?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I rise sadly to ask that condolences be sent to the family and friends of Mr. George Richardson. He might not be well known amongst a lot of people, but Mr. Richardson was a constituent of mine in Jones's Village, and who was certainly a great supporter of us as well. But prior to coming to Jones's Village, he came from Bacatan, where he gained his where he gained his popularity forming the Richardson Gumbays. He was known as a sweet drummer, for those of us who understand drumming. He was a very popular Gumbay warrior who could also make Gumbay suits as well. So he was very popular in that area. Mr. Richardson was a gentleman in its truest form and a very humble giant of a man. Mr. Richardson was popular when CB radios were popular at the time, and he had a handle of, his handle was Deuce of Diamonds. So if any of you were CB workers, you'd have known it was him. No, they wouldn't know that. In Gumbay language, George knew how to rush them back. So again, I'm talking in Gumbay language here. So I do hope my good friend George rests in peace. Mr. Speaker, if I could just switch gears on a more joyful note, let me give congratulations or birthday congratulations to my branch chairman, Tariq Bean Darrell. He hit the ripe age of 40 this week. And I could certainly say that without his help, I might not even be standing here today. So I certainly want to wish him well. And I also, Mr. Speaker, would like to associate with the congratulations on retirement of Miss Jasmine Smith. She is one of my constituents, so maybe now I can see her when I knock on her door. She'll be home and not working for these ministers. So again, like for congratulations to Ms. Smith to be given. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? MP De Silva,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
go right ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would like to offer the House to offer condolences to the family of Carla Althea Patricia Darrow, also known as Peachy. She was the daughter of well-known Glenda Darrow from I associate MP Swan. She was the daughter of Glenda Darrow. Of course, we all knew her as Glenda Todd, who worked at Port Royal for many, many years, as many of us will know, and certainly MP Kim Swan will know. And I'd just like to mention she got a nickname when she was born because the nurse said, "What a peach." And from that moment on, her mother and father, Tom Wainwright, called her Peachy. So I would certainly like to offer those condolences to Glenda and the family on the passing of Peachy. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
MP Swan?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the honorable member De Silva associating me with the condolences to the Todd Darrow family, who I'm very close to through the great game of golf, and I actually knew Peaches as well growing up. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to be associated with the congratulations that were expressed to the Ebenezer Methodist Church. I had the great pleasure, along with MP Ming and Minister Roban, to be there to partake in that service given by Brother Krishna there, and it was outstanding. Reverend Simmons has some great themed services at Ebenezer, and I'm grateful and to have been a part of them, and certainly I want to salute MP Ming for continuing to hold up Dame Jennifer with the esteem through those awards and all the honorees that were recognized. It's an outstanding award in the award ceremonies indeed. I'd like to recognize a couple of young people, Kenny Lejour, who lifted for the first time on the 40th anniversary of the person that was one of his early mentors, myself, winning the Bermuda Amateur Championship on the same weekend. It's quite prophetic. Beaten in the playoff, the other young 5-year-old, who's now 16-year-old Oliver Bashard, who they learned at the same time with me, and I'm very proud of them. Kim Batella was the lady champion, and I know her late father, Eddie Marshall, would be very proud. I'd like to recognize Zen Joseph, the granddaughter of the late Laverne Ferbert and her aunt Maxine Esdale, on the good things that she is doing, and may she go to great heights, Mr. Speaker. I want to say thank you to Michael Jones, the town crier, on his retirement. Patsy Tuzo, retiring from Ocean View. You're officially old when you hire the person that then retires. And I hired her at Ocean View in the 80s, and I was there for her retirement as the chairman, and Jasmine Smith as well. And I want to say to the Bermuda National Trust, on a great celebration, of which I will outline some of those persons at a later time, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. First, on a sad note, wish to express condolences to the family of Dr. Jeremy Harris, who was a forensic and clinical psychologist who worked in this island since 2012, formerly at the Department of Court Services and Solstice. She died at the age of 47 years old and left to grieve a 2-year-old son. So it's a difficult time for all who've known her. And she's touched many lives as she's been a member of this salsa community and she's helped both, like I said, clients of the department and in her clinical practice as well. And on a lighter note, congratulations again to the swimmers who performed exceptionally well representing Bermuda. And I want to recognize Honorable Member Smith for his excellent work that he's been doing with our young athletes and making us proud. Thank you, sir. Thank you, House.
Does any other member wish to make a contribution? MP Famous?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, and listening audience. Mr. Speaker, I would like to give congratulations to the Elliott School, my alma mater, and my constituency. I want to give a special shout out to one particular lady, young lady, Christina Pimentel. She's named Pimentel because that's her father, but she's of the Bow clan of Devonshire, Roberts Avenue to be specific. This young lady won awards for art, language, and coding, which speaks to the fact that in public school, we are teaching our young people coding at an early age. Mr. Speaker, I want to move on to you and I's alma mater, the Berkeley Institute, who graduated in class this year. And one gentleman in particular, his name is synonymous with someone else in this esteemed house, Mr. Diallo de Silva. No relation, of course, of Montiel. This young man was awarded the Parish Pride Award as he's going on to Bermuda College to study HVAC, which is basically air conditioning, heat and ventilation, air conditioning. And we in Devonshire have taken particular, for the last 7 years, given this award out to young Berkeleyites who are going to Bermuda College to study the trades. As we know in Bermuda, we need more Bermudian trades persons, whether they be female or male. So, and this is our way to encourage our young people to study the trades. So I just want to shout out again to Miss Christina Pimentel Bow of the Bow clan. Christina Pimentel of the Bow clan and Mr. Diallo, no relation, de Silva of Montiel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP. Does any other member wish to make a MP Jackson? You have your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to send condolences to the family of Frances Cast. She lived 102 years in Bermuda, and she was not in my constituency. She was of Southampton, but her son, Harry Cast, is a member of my constituency, and I send condolences to him and his family at this very sad time. Although he did comment that 102 years he was able to have his mother for an extended period of time and certainly enjoyed that. So I'd just like to acknowledge their loss. Thanks.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? Any other member? There's no other member at this time. We'll bring us to a close of the condolences and congratulations for this morning. We'll now move on. The next item on the order paper this morning is matters of privilege. There are none. Personal explanations. There are none. Notice of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance. There are none. Introduction of bills. There's one bill to be introduced this morning by the Minister of Works. Minister, would you like to do your bill at this time? Introduce the bill.
Mr. Speaker, I'm introducing the following bill for its first reading so that it may be placed on the order paper for the next day of meeting. The West End Development Corporation Amendment Act 2024.
Thank you. There are no opposition bill, no private members' bills. Notice of motions. There are none. Members, that takes us to the orders of the day. We have 2 items to be dealt today on the orders of the day. I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 4 minutes or so before we would normally break for the lunch period. I'm assuming it's going to take more than 4 minutes to deal with those matters. So I'm going to seek the indulgence of the House that we rise at this time and then be back at 2 o'clock. If there's any objections to that, please state. If there's none, Premier?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this honorable House do now adjourn until 2 p.m. for lunch.
Thank you. Members, the House now stands adjourned until 2 p.m.